And now we call the December 6, 2012 Jail and Juvenile Transition Center Committee meeting to order. We'll take a roll call, please.
Sharpoffer.
Present.
Krasinski.
Here.
Hummer.
Here.
Mahoney.
Here.
Snyder.
Here.
Wilkins. Kraus.
Here.
Rupp. Wilson.
Here.
Henner. Warner.
Here.
Carter.
Here.
Murray. Orr.
Okay, thank you. Approval of last week's minutes.
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on the minutes? Additions, deletions, comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, agenda item number 4, project financing presentation. I believe we're going to give that to Mr. Kaplan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Heath Kaplan, Finance Management Services Director. This is going to be a joint presentation between myself. I'll be on the end of the presentation. And so it's my pleasure to introduce to you Andre Ayala, if I can always say his last name properly, from First Southwest. He is our financial advisor, and he'll be taking over the first portion of this presentation. Andre.
Good afternoon, members of the board. My name is Andre Ayala. I work at First Southwest Company. We work with the County of Muskegon as financial advisor. I'm going to do the first portion of this presentation, just to talk a little bit about the county's bond rating, your debt capacity, the municipal bond market, just a brief update on that. I'm going to talk a little bit about your existing debt and how this is going to, this project rolls into your existing debt portfolio. And Heath is going to touch on items 6 and 7, which is the actual plan of finance, and then the schedule of events for this project. Currently, the county is rated by 2 of the 3 major rating agencies, Moody's and S&P. Moody's has a county rated a AA2 for the quality of life bond, which is an unlimited tax bond, and they rate the county AA3 on the limited tax pledge. At the same time, S&P rates the county AA only on the limited tax pledge. So the county has at this time 2 ratings, AA3, limited tax, and AA by S&P on the limited tax as well. Last year in 2011, when we went to the market for the delinquent tax notes, S&P upgraded the county to a strong financial management assessment from good. Strong is the highest category you can get from S&P, and that was achieved in April of 2011. S&P also gave the county the highest short-term rating, which is S&P 1+. In the past, the county had been going to Moody's, and Moody's gave the county a MIC 1, which is the same as S&P 1+, so that didn't change. The only thing that changed was that instead of S&P rating the delinquent tax notes, Moody's, now it's S&P. Over the past 15 years, as you can see, the county's financial position has been improving over time. We went from being a Baa1 rating to a AA3 rating by Moody's, and then we went from a single A S&P to a AA S&P. So the rating has not gone down in the past 15 years. Now, what was S&P's credit assessment last time we went to the market for the DTANs? In April of 2012, the county sold delinquent tax notes, and they got a short-term rating from S&P. The S&P 1+ was achieved. The S&P 1+ was achieved.
Very good, Heath.
Sorry, guys, I don't know what's going on with that.
It's not a great deal left, so.
Very good.
It's still happening.
Just real quick.
Well, I'm just gonna, and please stop me if you have any questions as I go with this. S&P basically said, okay, we're gonna give you a AA rating, and these are the reasons why. Number 1, you're next to Kent County, which has the city of Grand Rapids. It's one of the biggest economies in the state of Michigan, so that contributes to a healthy economy in this county. Number 2, your taxable base per capita is strong, even though there were some contractions in the tax base beginning in 2010 due to the subprime crisis in the United States. Number 3, even though our incomes are 80% and 74% of the national and state level respectively, you're still considered a strong rating, AA rating, despite the fact that we're not at the national level, we're slightly below that. Now, this is the most important point that S&P makes when they talk about the county's rating. It's a very strong financial position demonstrated by very strong reserves and additional liquidity outside the general fund. So what they mean is that the county's financial position is super, super strong. So it's not just that your tax revenues are good, you also have enterprise funds that function properly. Also, that something that they point out is that historically, the general fund does not run deficits. It runs surpluses or balanced budgets. Also, they talk about your overall net debt burden, which excludes all the self-supporting debt, wastewater fund, water revenue fund, assessments, and the Michigan Transportation Fund, and that they consider that to be moderate. It's not high, it's not low, it's just moderate. The overlapping debt is significant, and that is something you cannot control. What they talk about in there is they talk about the cities, the school districts, authorities, library districts, community college, everything that is in the county that issues debt for their own projects affects the taxpayers of the county, so they consider that overlapping debt. Now, that's a significant portion of the county's debt. It's not something you can control. They say that the expenditures in debt service that the county makes every year, in their opinion, they consider them low because we're under 2%, and that is as of fiscal year 2011. So the amount of money you spend on debt service is actually low, in their opinion. Another important point that they make is that your unfunded liabilities as of 2010 were above 80%. That is way above the average for Midwestern entities and California entities. Those are the things that have brought problems to California. Here in Muskegon County, we're 80% funded in our pension. That's very good. Another good point that they make is that beginning in 2007, the county implemented a defined contribution plan. So that's a step in the right direction according to S&P. And then the most important thing is the strong financial management assessment, and there's 5 points that they make. The county does long-term planning. Number 2, you have a formal capital improvement plan. Number 3, there's communication between the board and the staff. The staff comes every month and gives updates to the board, so that's good. Number 4, the board approved a debt management policy in 2011, another strong point in their opinion. And number 5, your general fund reserves are, your targets for your general fund have historically been met. So if you target a balanced budget, you meet it. If you target a surplus, you meet it. Yeah, I'm going to skip this slide because you cannot see it. But what I wanted to show here is that we're focusing on S&P because the rating that S&P is giving you is a AA. Moody's is giving you a AA3, which is a notch below. And as you know, the federal government is a AA plus. Muskegon County is just one notch below them. It's a AA. And in the short term, is the highest category. Finally, S&P has no expectation of changing the rating within the next 2 years. They say that Muskegon County is a AA stable outlook. They don't expect it to go down or up. AA is what we have right now. Do you have any questions so far?
If you mentioned 2%, and if I interpreted that right, we're paying less than 2% on our debt?
Of your total expenditures.
Oh, okay, I wanted to know what that 2% meant. I didn't think that was what you meant. Thank you.
Well, I just wanted to talk about briefly. Muskegon County is above average in the state of Michigan. There's only a few counties that have ratings above us, and there's only 5: Kent, Oakland, Ottawa, Ingham, and Washtenaw. And for obvious reasons. I mean, those are bigger economies, bigger tax bases. As far as our neighbors go, they are with them or above them. And just as a benchmark, Muskegon is a AA. The state of Michigan is a AA minus. Muskegon County is a AA. The bond insurer is a AA minus, and the knee bond insurer is a AA. So that means that in the future, or now, if Muskegon County decides to issue bonds, in the past they used to insure the bonds with a bond insurer out of New York. Now they don't have to do that because the rating is the same or higher. Now, we always get this question about what is my debt capacity? Well, there's 3 components that we like to address here. Legally, your debt capacity is driven by your state equalized value, which is, as of 2012, $4.7 billion. So that means that you can issue about $4.74 million in debt. Now you have $144 million outstanding, so your debt capacity legally is $330 million. Now other factors that drive that would be interest cost, the ratings, which drive that, but then ultimately the county's debt capacity is how much is the county willing to pay. Just summarizing your existing debt, the county currently has $144 million of outstanding debt. And the county budgets, there are 7 revenue streams to pay that debt. Number 1 is your operating ad valorem tax, which is the one that we're going to discuss further. Number 2 is your quality of life ad valorem tax, which is to pay just that one bond that was voted. Number 3, you collect special assessments from townships in the county, Dalton, Fruitland, Laketon, all of those. Number 4, you have delinquent tax revenue to pay for your detents every year. Number 5, you have the water supply system revenue. Number 6, you got the wastewater supply system revenue. And number 7, you got the Michigan Transportation Fund revenue. So those 7 revenue streams are the ones that cover your debt. We have a chart that we wanted to show you just so you can see the percentages. 49% of the total debt portfolio is for the wastewater revenue system. So that means that the other half is divided between the operating ad valorem tax, the quality of life, the special assessments, the delinquent tax revenue, the Michigan Transportation Fund, and the water revenue. The operating portion, as of right now, is only 10% of your total portfolio, which is $17 million, approximately. Out of the $17 million, there's 3 bonds that are included in that figure. There's $10.4 million of the Muskegon County Building Authority. There's 2 projects, the mental health facility bonds and the Muskegon County Hall of Justice Heritage Landing bonds. And then the other bond is the one that was issued in 2010. The amount that is outstanding right now for energy conservation bonds is about $6.6 million. If we had the 10.4 of the Building Authority and the energy conservation, we end up with about $17 million. And this excludes the quality of life, since that has its own tax rate, its own revenue stream. I'm just talking about the bonds that are paid for by operating tax revenue. Yes, sir.
I want to go back to the energy savings bonds, and our goal there to pay those off were with the savings and in the revenue streams that you had mentioned. I would think that should be also mentioned, or is that not?
Those savings were for the operating fund, so we're including those in your operating revenue stream.
Okay, I just want to make sure they were in there somewhere.
Excuse us 1 minute. We're just going to save the presentation over here so you guys can actually see it. Sorry, we're having a feed issue between here and here for whatever reason. Apologize for the delay.
Just, if I may, while we're delayed, just to make a point, if 17 million that we're talking about, 6 million of it's paid for by energy savings. I just don't think that's getting a fair shake in the assessment. We did that at Oak Ridge Schools, and it did pay for itself. And it wasn't, I mean, it's in cost reductions, not a revenue stream, and so I just want to subtract that from that 17 million. Maybe I can't, but that's my point. You know. What's that?
You can't feel that.
No, but
It's still a debt.
it is a debt.
Yeah, it's still a debt.
But it has a funding source. to
Yeah,
pay
it
off.
has its funding source, is all. Compared to Ottawa counties, if I could, 10 counties, in particular, the 2 strongest economies that were connected to their ratings are equal,
They're higher.
they're higher.
Yes, sir.
Both in Ottawa and,
Yes, sir. Kent County is a AAA rated county by both S&P and Moody's. Ottawa County is a AAA by Moody's and Fitch. They do have an S&P rating that is rather outdated. They haven't gone to S&P in about 7 years.
does Ottawa County, and we've been compared to them, and really can't, because some of the enterprise funds that we operate, and I want to talk about DPW in particular, they don't have those.
Right, well, I mean, the county does have, Ottawa County and Muskegon County have about the same amount of debt that is secured by a tax pledge. Now, I'm not familiar with their internal financial structure, but the facts are, that I know, is that the amount of gross debt is about the same here and there. Now, their tax base is double. So their tax base is double what we have here. So that makes them stronger.
Okay, I just wanted to.
More expensive homes.
They say don't, but they don't operate.
This is a chart I wanted to show you why we are focusing on S&P at this time. As you can see, S&P is a double. They rate you AA. Moody's is AA3. So we want to go with whoever obviously gives has a favorable opinion of us. So we go with S&P, just 2 notches below AAA. They give us the highest short-term rating, and they consider our rating to be stable as of April 2012. This was the comparison that I was talking about, and this is to address your comment about Camden, Ottawa. Those are AAA rated counties. And the reason why, again, is because they just have bigger tax bases, bigger economies. It's just different dynamics than what we deal with here. And as you can see, Muskegon versus the state, we're at par with them, and above in S&P's case. And then our neighbors, we are right with them or above them. This is a chart that I wanted to show you about your debt components. And I know that you say the energy bonds are self-supporting, but they're still in the ad valorem tax category. I don't know if the county budget's a line item for that, but in that category we have the 17 million, and then we have the quality of life 4.6, and as you can see, the percentages, the highest component is your wastewater debt, and the special assessments debt, which all of those are self-supporting at this time. This is just how your debt components are. The ones that the blue at the very bottom, that is your operating tax debt. So it's minimal if you look at it. The orange is the wastewater, and then those huge payments in 13 and 14, those are just the decants. And you take those out, then you see that your debt portfolio is pretty flat.
Would you repeat that?
Say that again, sir?
Would you repeat that?
Sure. The blue.
No, just the.
About the jump.
The jump. The big payments in 13 and 14 is because of the delinquent tax notes. Those notes are issued over 18 months.
But that, okay.
Yeah.
The point is it'll roll.
Exactly. So those are the big spikes that you see in purple in this case.
Okay. I just wanted to make it clear.
These were the bonds that we were talking about that are in the operating side, the building authority bonds and the energy conservation bonds, a total of $17 million. This is your existing debt structure for the operating side. As you can see, it's about 1.7 million between 13 and 22. Then it drops and it goes away after 2033. So it's pretty flat. There's nothing unusual. Now we want to talk a little bit about the bond market update. And Jim,
well, I'll just mention that interest rates are at historical lows. That the bond market itself last week. Oh, by the way, my name is Jim Savons. I work with Andre Ayala at First Southwest Company, and I'm glad to be here. We've worked with the county for a while. And one thing I wanted to announce, and I think this is pretty exciting, is that last night they have our annual awards in our industry. So Bond Buyer is the Wall Street Journal of the municipal bond industry. And we're proud that we were partners with the Michigan Finance Authority, $3.3 billion refunding of the federal unemployment insurance loan that we were advisor on for the agency. Won the deal of the year, every deal that was done last year, and a team of people from our firm did that. But when it goes back to the market, the interest rates as we talked about, last week the interest rate hit a low of 3.29%. We've kept the indexes on since 1985. It's the lowest it's ever been. Not only is it low, but there's a tremendous amount of money available and interested in doing municipal bonds. It's the best place to put money nowadays because municipal bonds pay, and so investors there's a large amount of cash on there. This chart actually shows the yields that you have on your bonds. Again, you have a very high investment grade quality, and you can see that the yields here go from under 1% to just slightly above 3%. The difference between the red and the blue has to do with if we have the bonds callable or not callable. And where the lines start to separate is when the bonds actually become callable. What we believe will be that we'll sell callable bonds, and while we have initial higher costs, what will happen is over time that 10-year maturity will become a 1-year maturity, and we'll actually be able to refund it for savings. So we could give up, a little bit of initial interest rate for the ability to refinance, to have flexibility to refinance, and to have interest rates low. We believe that's would be the strategy we recommend to you. Go ahead.
And some of those bonds that we have out there, they could be combined, refinanced, and dropped. That could be in the game plan.
They will be in the future. In fact, we've completed some refundings. This county has monitored all its debt. It's refunded all its debt when it's can. We know when the debt is available for refunding. We've got long-term capital plans to include that. You have some debt that comes available in the next 2 years that will be refunded. We expect there to be significant savings for the taxpayers because of that. But in general, there's been a tremendous flight to quality. If you were to sell your bonds, you would sell them at the most competitive rates. People across the nation would bid, and you'd have interest rates that would never be lower than they are right now. We expect rates to stay fairly flat at that level.
For how long?
The Federal Reserve's indicated to 2015. It's hard to have a perfect crystal ball, but we think for the foreseeable future. We've seen that they've indicated strongly that they're trying to keep monetary policy low, and from our economic economists indicate that they think that through the foreseeable next 6 to 9 months, we think rates will stay within a trading range very close to where they are.
And Mr. Chair, I want to call Andre back up here. Just why don't we provide another just brief summary of the initial first half of it, and then allow you guys questions as we go along. We apologize for the glitches there, but we'll go back to beginning, give you the summary version, and then allow for questions from there. If that's okay, Mr. Chair.
Sounds good, thank you.
I'm going to go over this real quick again. Again, the bond ratings of the county: AA3 limited tax pledge by Moody's, AA by S&P limited tax pledge. We have one bond, AA2 limited tax by Moody's. Short term, highest category by S&P. Financial management assessment, strong, highest category given by S&P. The biggest strength that we have in this county is the financial position and the management. So everything that is under control of the commissioners and the staff has been done right. Therefore, the AA rating by S&P. As you can see, these are our existing ratings: AA3 by Moody's, AA by S&P, notch differential, highest category S&P, stable outlook as of right now. Yes, sir.
No, back. The one we just went to under Moody's.
This one?
No, the last one right there, the AA2. You have some other initials there. You be
Yes, sir.
clarify those?
AA2 unlimited tax, AA3 limited tax.
Okay.
AA2 is a quality of life bond. Additional debt capacity legally, $330 million. What's the county's actual debt capacity? The county's willingness to pay, pretty much. Summary of existing debt: 7 revenue streams: operating tax, quality of life tax, special assessments, wastewater revenue, water revenue, Michigan Transportation Fund, and delinquent taxes. Then the $144 million of debt divided, if you divide it in a pie chart, we have 49%, that's our wastewater system, self-supporting. We have assessments, we do have the water revenue, and our operating portion is only 10%. Debt structure, pretty flat. The spikes, all they mean is the delinquent tax notes that are issued every year. Tax supported debt from the operating side, $17 million divided between the building authority and the energy conservation bonds. This is the structure of our operating tax debt, pretty flat, about $1.7 million between 13 and 22, drops after that. Again, the municipal interest rates are at historical lows. The index last Thursday came at the lowest it's been since 1965, 3.29%. The average over a 25-year period was 5.44, so that means we're about 200 basis points. I mean, we're 200 basis points below the 25-year average. The low rate in that period was last Thursday's. Have any questions on this one?
I can't read the numbers.
The number right now is, the last one we have was 3.29%.
I didn't know if that were 3 or 5.
Yeah, the average over the same period is 5.44. Michigan, Muskegon County cost of funds is right now we go from a 5-year yield of 1.26 to a 25-year yield of 3%. That's for non-callable bonds. If we issue callable bonds, they carry a premium based on the buyers of this type of bond. Then we go from 3% to 3.9, but that's just the cost of the call. And as Jim said, over time, when these bonds become callable, the 10-year maturity becomes a 1-year maturity and so forth, so you'll be able to refund this for economic savings. Then the climate finance, I'm going to let Keith go over this one.
Thank you. Before we get started, any additional questions regarding the the bond market, credit ratings, debt capacity, any of that before we continue on to actually, okay, now budgetary-wise, how are we planning on funding this venture? Okay. Again, appreciate the opportunity to be able to talk with you today. Again, when we talk about the budget and we talk about, okay, folding this into the budget, you'll notice in the actual plan itself, you're not going to see a recommended tax millage. You're not going to see anything under to even similar to it. What you're going to see is how can we use our existing resources more efficiently to be able to take on this new existing debt once upon its bond. And so again, point one is again we use the cash that we have in the bank right now. We use it to our advantage. We use that to pay interest, and we use it to be able to leverage the project into a very good negotiating position for us when we go out to the bond market. So that's point one. Point two is making some operational changes in staff. The new building gives us a couple of things. It gives us the ability and the flexibility to be able to now downsize our staff that is extremely labor intensive now given the existing facility and get it into a more efficient building and structure. And with that, as you can see, depending on the option that's elected, we do have some flexibility into the amount of positions that we're talking about. In regards to our recent changes in medical insurance, we have leveraged a lot of opportunity for the county in regards to medical, prescription, etc. And within that, we can definitely lower expenditures within the general fund that we charge off to the general fund, because the general fund, as we all know, provides allocations to other funds and other activities outside the general fund activities. And within those programs that we've initiated, where we've initiated a wellness program, again, we talked about the prescription program. With that, we want to obviously continue that enrollment, but also with that, we can reduce our expenditures through those allocations through the medical rate we currently charge. And when we do that, again, we're reducing our claim liability by, again, initiating these programs. The wellness program went over very well. We had a very high percentage of individuals that enrolled in that wellness program. And with that wellness program, they're taking charge of their own health. They're taking charge, they're more aware of what things they need to do to improve on that. And statistically speaking, from a priority health standpoint, which we rely heavily on, is that, again, everyone who's enrolled in this wellness program has saw a very marketable decrease in claim history. And when you're self-funded, of course, that's cash in the bank for the county. And also, in regards to moving into our cost allocation plan, is we'll work with our consultants with Maximus when we attain your debt service. You include that in your cost allocation plan, along with other administrative expenses that will be reallocated back out through all of the departments and all the funds within the county. And so when you put together that puzzle, and you do the math, it equals the principal and interest payment that would be needed for this project. And with that, and I apologize for the small type, but you had the 1D option, then you had the 1D base, and then you had the 1C base, and then you had it with the alternatives with it. And as you can see with it, when we minus out the cash on hand, and again, we're going to use some of that cash on hand to pay down interest charges, etc. But the remaining part that we have left, of course, will go towards the balance of the bonds. And then, as you can see, as we move down, depending on the option, depending on the beds, and of course, etc., and the amortization, as you can see, I'm recommending a 25-year amortization because when you get to the 30-year amortization, you really get penalized on that yield curve, and that interest rate really starts getting up there. 25 seems to be the real sweet spot for the bonds in the municipal bond market. And of course, we could go to a 20 if you wanted to go there. Of course, when you go to a 20, yes, well, your interest rate would be lower, but yeah, of course, your payment would be higher. And then you see the average life of the bonds, and of course, the real all-in cost interest rate that's associated with it. So, yeah, your principal and interest, it ranges from $800,000 up to 1.5. It's a lot of information to throw on one slide, so I want to make sure you guys have plenty of opportunity to look that over and ask any questions if you have any. But again,
Over the life of this facility, which I'm guessing is 50 years, I don't know why, the indebtedness is a small piece of the total amount we're going to spend, yet to have the most positive impact on how much we're going to have to spend on other things. Is that a safe assumption?
oh, absolutely. The facility itself is, and I'm not speaking on the sheriff's behalf, is extremely labor intensive. It's inefficient to run. A newer facility, we're going to be able to leverage energy savings. We're not even eligible for consumers' energy rebates at all right now. $0. As much, doesn't matter what I throw in that building will not get you to the energy savings ratio that you need to leverage that rebate. And obviously, when you build a new building, I want that rebate, and that's significant money. That is six-figure money that will come back to the county in the form of a check once we upgrade that facility. And that's the unfortunate part is there's always that tug and pull as to what do you do with an older facility versus a newer. In this case, we just simply, no matter how much money you throw into that old facility, you are not going to get the energy savings needed to be able to get that rebate program in line one. But two, again, it's the staff consumption. Because you got heavy staff consumption now, and to be able to get leaner and meaner, where we've been heading in these past years and moving forward, we need a more linear construction versus versus vertical. Any other questions so far? And again, you'll see that the budget impact is the fiscal year 15. Okay. So moving on to, again, just a proposed schedule of events is, you're looking at potentially, if, let's say, this, the board gives the blessing on this project in February, we can get it, or get with S&P to get our credit rating March or April, and then obviously depending on timing, if we really want to get going on the market, we can get started and get our bond delivery money here anywhere between April and August. And then if we have our money in hand, and given we have 6 months of design for architecture, then you've got about another 12 to 18 months of construction. You're looking at opening the doors in the new facility around June of 2015. That's for both facilities. That's not just the one for the jail. And those energy savings, by the way, also are doubled for also not just the jail, but the juvenile transition center.
The $7 million we got to play with, you're not going to reduce, let's say, just put a plan B, I forget find some middle ground if we could. You're going to use that, you'd recommend using that to make the interest payments rather than reduce the cost.
Well, yeah, the first, with this recommendation is with the doors potentially open around June of 2015 and construction starting as early as late this year. You have interest on those bonds once you get the money, and so the money that I'm recommending we set aside to account for, to pay for that interest, is that difference between the 6 or so million and the 7. Okay. So you'll make your first principal payment after the doors open.
No, I've done this at Oak Ridge. They gave us all our money up front, and we were able to invest that. I mean, I got caught in arbitrage,
Yeah, you get
that
caught.
was a good thing to get caught in, because you made a lot of money for it.
Yeah, those days are gone.
Okay, but that is gone. They will pay it as it's.
Right, no, this will be a lump sum. We'll get the bond, once the bonds are sold, we'll get the 100% of the funds delivered to us on that particular day. We'll get 100%.
You'll get 100%.
But we're going to use 100% of those funds. We're going to time it to where we get the funds right prior to we start construction.
Right, but you still have a construction schedule, so you know when it's going to come due. You're telling me you're not allowed to invest that as...
You'll get negative arbitrage if you do that. You get penalized
Those
for it.
days are, okay, never mind. I wasn't suggesting anything illegal, but at one time,
Uncle Sam
you
would
couldn't
want,
do that.
Yeah, Uncle Sam would want that money. They'd want that interest, and so that's why they hit you. It's because back in the day, you're correct, you could do that. No longer can do that.
You're saying I'm old?
I'm saying that you are experienced.
No, I would just, good. I just wanted to be clear, I can see why you're doing it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have a question for the bond specialist. There has been some suggestion that we may see rather active and rampant inflation out 2 or 3 years. If that were to occur, what would you guess the impact might be?
Well, the impact, there would be no impact on the bonds if we sell them prior to that. So the bottom line is those bonds, once they're sold at those interest rates. So there wouldn't be an impact in inflation in 2 years. You pay what you owe. These are fixed rate bonds.
Yeah,
But you're paying it back for cheaper money.
absolutely.
And so the point being is that the interest rates, we establish the interest rates the day of the sale. And I'd like to go back to your comment, and I'm glad that you previously invested wisely. We intend to invest wisely. Money will be received in lump sum, and Heath will invest those proceeds based on the investment policy of the county. But right now, because of the Federal Reserve's monetary policy, the eligible investments are very low, and they're not going to be even as high as the interest rates we sell our bonds at. It used to be where you can invest in taxable and have a little higher yield. Right now, it's not. We'll monitor and we'll try to invest more efficiently, but there'll be a little negative arbitrage in that process right now.
Keith, can you go back, or Keith?
That's right, go for Keith, that's
Yeah,
fine.
okay. Can you go back to yeah, that slide. Now all these numbers are based on an industry best guess in terms of project costs. Maybe that's a better question for
our
articulate.
Yeah, Joe, would you like to
So-
address that first?
The costs on this chart, the first two columns are the base bid, which is the minimal project you could do for both options 1C and 1D. Then the second two columns include all of the alternates, if you chose to do all of the alternates. If you remember, RQW and Vice had a cost estimating consultant, a construction company, help us with the budgets. So these are based upon experts developing these budgets. And what we did is we costed the project in a range from a low to a high, and that we included on the cost estimates the base bid and the alternates, so it could be structured in such a way that you had a project that you could fund and finance, and you could add the alternates as you had the ability to finance. But yes, these are estimates, are not actual bids yet. You won't have actual bids at best case until July or so at the earliest case, but these were developed by us and our cost estimating consultants.
And then I think you said this, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. Right now, we have historical low interest rates. Right now, we sit on a very competitive bidding atmosphere. 6 months, a year from now, both of those things will be more costly with that. Could I put those words in your mouth?
Yeah, I think, in spite of the economy being what it is the last few years, construction costs have still continued to go up. And it's not gone up pretty much in the labor area, it's gone up in materials, commodities. Commodity prices have gone up, particularly things like concrete and steel. Those things have continued to increase in cost, even though inflation has been minimal and the economy has been bad. So you can anticipate that those things will still continue to increase with time. So yes, I mean, construction costs are not going to go down because of what's going on in the world with demand for steel and concrete and so forth. These commodities continue to increase in price.
But what you're seeing out there happening is the bidding is very competitive. I mean, if there were a lot of projects going because things are improving, those construction costs are going to increase because there's going to be fewer people.
We are now in a
I'm trying to put words in your mouth.
we are now in a perfect storm. This is the perfect opportunity to take on an endeavor like this because of the competitiveness, low interest rates, and so forth. It will never be cheaper. And I don't have a crystal ball either, but I'm pretty safe in saying that.
And to pick the one that's going to do the county the most good, the scale of cost of doing it big and doing it right, it's going to be less because we're doing more. I'm not saying that correctly.
It's the economy of scale. If you can afford to do all of the alternates, I would recommend that you do so because of that economy of scale. There's no time like the present to get it done.
That's what I've been trying to get you to say.
Other questions for either the consultant or Heath or the bond folks?
Thank you.
Anything else for us, Heath?
No, sir.
Can we get hard copies of
Yes,
this or
we
just
will.
a thumb drive or something?
Yeah, we will distribute this by email and by hard copy.
It'll be posted obviously on the.
That'll be put on the project website.
Okay, anything else under the project finance presentation?
No, sir.
That's it, okay. Agenda item number 5, other business. Any committee, Mr. Plummer?
There was a lot brought up by the audience last week. Mr. Spataro in particular with Craig School. I went and visited Craig School. The way I look at Craig School right now, I don't know if anybody's been around there, if you'd like to look at the pictures. I believe that the neighbors, the neighborhood there, the people that in the homes that are still occupied would welcome us. That school is falling apart. Brick, mortar, everything's falling apart, it's boarded up. Muskegon Public Schools has no money to fix it. If we don't do something with it, the city of Muskegon, by their own rules, in about 5 years, is gonna say it's a dangerous building and order it tore down. So now, therefore, somebody else is gonna have to pay for it. So I believe that school, if we could fix that up and make it a nice place, would improve that neighborhood. Also on the fact of closing Pine Street off, it may not make for good planning, but I'm pretty sure the city of Muskegon, when they reconfigured Shoreline Drive, they blocked a lot of roads off to make something better. So I think that closing off that short piece of pine wouldn't be a big issue. Some people mentioned about we should rebuild our current jail. Well, we would have to move our prisoners out for what, maybe 2 years? And everybody says, well, they're worried about visitation. Well, there probably wouldn't be too much visitation then, so I don't think that that's a real stable idea. And I just believe that we're trying to do this for the whole county, not, picking on the city of Muskegon because it's going to be here or anybody else, but we're all in this together. We don't fix this problem, it's just going to keep mounting debt against us constantly. Mr. Warren, he looked up those fees for me and what we're spending every year on maintenance on that place. I wanted to bring it out because I think this is the best thing. Like Joe said, and I'm in construction, I know what's going on. If you don't do it now, within a couple of years, the cost of that's going to double and interest rates will go up. And I just believe this is a good time and we need to move forward on this. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Mr. Dearson.
Our attorney was here, but this is a mandated function of this county.
Correct.
We don't have a choice but to have a jail by the state constitution. Am I saying that right? But we are mandated. We are
Well,
absolutely.
you're mandated to provide for the incarceration of the county inmates. Yeah. There are 2 counties that don't have jails, but they have a reciprocal cooperating agreement with neighboring counties, and we are unfortunately not in a position to do that. Other business or comments at this point, I guess? I guess my only comment I'll make at this point is there's still a lot of discussion to be held. I mean, we do certainly need, if in fact we're going to be serious about Craig School, we do need to get into that community. In fact, we have a meeting scheduled January 16th with the neighborhood association and then any other representatives from that community, business or commercial or otherwise. I mean, we absolutely have to meet, we have to listen to their concerns, but there's a lot of information that presented in a short time today that I gotta digest too. So I'm not looking for any kind of decision today on pretty much anything at this point. I think it was another informational session, information gathering, if you will, that we now gotta kind of run through our filters. So, sir.
I'd just like to comment that I agree, we need to take our time, but I'm certainly encouraged by this analysis. It indicates that we can do this. There are some of us who have thought that this was a possibility all the way along the line, and I'm pleased to see that it is a possibility. I think the analysis is accurate. I also think that the timing is right. It needs to be done immediately, if not sooner. I know it can't be done immediately, but we need to take the steps to get it in place and move it forward. We've made a lot of progress in the last 6 years, from 2006 on, and That progress is reflected in the financial analysis that we just saw. Without that progress having been made over that period of time, we would not be in this position, I can assure you. And we are in that position because of progress by this commission.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, if not, we'll move into agenda item 6, which is the time for public comment. And if you haven't had a chance to fill a public comment sheet, I think there's some left. Once I get through the sheets and we show of hands who else may want to have some comment, but I would ask a couple things. You direct your comments to the chair and that you adhere to the policy of the 2 minutes for comment. And I actually did download the egg timer on my little smartphone here, so. Try to use technology to that end. Okay. Mr. Bill Crick. Mr. Crick. Transition jail. How are you?
Okay. My name's Bill Crick. I live at 1752 Jefferson Street. I moved here 4 years ago from Maine because of what I read about this city and the whole county of Muskegon. We picked this place out of the web to move here and retire to. Since we've been here, we moved downtown because the downtown needs to be developed and rejuvenated. I walk every day in my community. Every day I go by Craig School. And no, Mr. Plummer, you're not welcome in the neighborhood. The school is a disaster, but the neighborhood should not become a jail. I have put and bought units in downtown, fixed them up, got them rented, made the properties look right, scraped and painted my house so it's better than anything else going on. And what you're planning to do to our neighborhood is not going to help. It is going to hurt. You are in the best position. I can see the numbers. You've done a good job. Don't mess it up by making a false move. A neighborhood is a neighborhood. It's not a jail. We already have, and I knew this when we moved into the neighborhood, we have a men's shelter, we have a women's shelter, now we have another shelter across Laketon. Fine. Now you want to put a jail in the same neighborhood. That's not very intelligent. That's insulting to your people. It's insulting to us who moved here. This is not something you want to do. You don't want to ruin what you've already worked very hard to get a turnaround. You're starting to get property back up. You're starting to have old houses taken off the property list. You're really cleaning up. Don't mess it up. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Mr. Larry Spataro, please.
Thank you. I'll be real short. Reading the newspaper article and reviewing my notes from the previous public participation parts of this process as it's played out over the course of the past year or so, 88 different locations were reviewed. And yet here we are, we're talking about the financing of the final recommendation, and neither of these locations were amongst those 88 locations to be reviewed. That's very troubling to me. Very troubling indeed. So there hasn't been an opportunity for public comment, so I'm very glad to hear that somebody's been to my ward to talk to my neighbors. Hopefully you will get to know them better on the 16th. I'll just say this, speaking on behalf of the City of Muskegon as its Vice Mayor, after consulting with the Mayor and the Manager after the last meeting, Thursday of last week, that we will not agree to any plan that involves the vacation of another downtown street, whether it be Spring or Walton, period. That's for our say.
We have the final authority on that, and we are not going to vacate a street. So any plan that involves the vacation of a downtown street, having heard that, you're going in with your eyes open knowing you're wasting taxpayers' dollars. I'm a taxpayer too, and I just assume you not waste my money either. There are options that were available, whether that be altering this current plan so it doesn't involve vacating the right-of-way, or using Roundy's or the General Hospital site, which were the final two finalists after the actual long public charrette process. The city is fine with any of those options. Quite honestly, the economic benefit to the jail downtown is more than offset by the harm closing off Pine Street would cause. It would damage existing businesses and businesses going forward. Finally, with Craig School, as you've heard from another neighbor who lives there year-round, lives less than 2 blocks away, that's zoned single-family residential. I'm well aware we've dealt with this issue before with correctional type facilities, even though it's not a jail or a prison. State law is pretty explicit on what can and cannot be done regarding the zoning in those cases.
You're up your 2 minutes, but
okay. I'm just going to say, we will not be rezoning that property. Now, I was asked at the last meeting, where are alternatives? And I wonder, because I looked on that 88, that list of 88.
I'll wrap it up there, sir.
I will. One can't help but notice that Mona Shores Public Schools has an administration building on McCracken that they've been trying to give away for $1. And yet that wasn't discussed at all. And I'm kind of wondering why not. Given that that's on a commercial street, a much larger piece of property, and minimal impact on residential areas. So that's where I'm going to be. I wish we could work together on these. Quite frankly, if these options had been included in the public charrette process, we would have been able to address these concerns in a timely way instead of here today. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate you allowing me to extend my remarks.
Appreciate your time. Andrew. Roger Nye. Funding of pension obligations.
Good afternoon. I'm Roger Nye from 1495 Westwood Circle in Norton Shores. I'm a member of Occupy Muskegon. A lot of numbers have been thrown up on the screen today. I would like to focus on just one number that was just given to us orally by Mr. Andre from Southwest. He claimed that your pension obligations are 80% funded, and this is, as I understand, what the state recommends as a minimum. In fact, however, your very own figures on your dashboard indicate that your pension obligations are only 69% funded. So I'd like to know, has this jumped 11% over the last year, or is there some other explanation of this discrepancy? Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Not sure forgive me for this.
Reed? Yeah, it's Kellen Reed.
Kellen Reed, okay.
Yeah. Good afternoon, everybody. I hear a lot about leverage and mandates and what this is all leveraged on and what creates for the mandate to have this change is of importance. You still have a facility that has people in it. You're talking about 2015, a new jail. What relief efforts are going to be made so that what you are managing now, that you were able to skim this $7 million off of so that you can have what you need on this deal, is going to be put into what's there currently. In addition, without a defender's office, we see that our numbers, like compared to Ottawa County, for incarceration are actually ridiculous. You know, we incarcerate quite a few more people. Is there any thought for immediate work to be done on that jail because there's humans in that jail. And certainly, we're not going to keep a facility like this to the year 2015, drain a bank account of $7 million that's been withheld where there's great need, and move forward. And I did attend the Charit sessions, and these are new options that are being presented here today as far as where these accommodations will stand in our community. Also, the Citizens Review Committee had not, what, 2 citizens? Everyone else had a vested interest in the development of this project? These are things, these are underlying issues, and I understand striking while the iron's hot, and that you've built your piece of money to come and get what you want. But you cannot leverage a deal while you hold hostages in a jail in inhumane living conditions. It's not safe for your workers. There seems to be no consideration for the human element of what's taking place in this community through the way that we incarcerate. And I would love to see that addressed before there was any further movement on developing anything else that costs a buck, that when we already have mismanagement and an inability to run a correctional facility. Thank you.
Thank you. Matt Crehan, jail, etc.
Good afternoon. After the last meeting, I went and got the minutes that you had discussed about the number of people that were in for obstruction of justice. And as I was going over the minutes, the first paragraph, the last sentence, jumped right out at me. Arqua toured the existing jail on October 4th and noted that the existing site can be improved for both staff and detainees. That hasn't been done. That hasn't been done for years. Why hasn't money been put into that, as the former speaker just said? And one other item leaped right out at me under the obstruction of justice category: failure to pay fines and costs, 76 people. Now, it's one thing if somebody has a job and they can't afford to pay the fines and costs, but if somebody's unemployed and everybody knows that a simple traffic ticket's going to be at least $100, you start adding court costs and this fee and that fee and God knows what other fee. There's a lot of people who simply can't afford that, and to put them in jail just because they can't afford to pay is just a way to clog your jail. So, Sheriff, if you didn't have those 76 people in there, we would get the average daily number probably down to about 350. If you had an average number of, say, 350, would you need a new jail at all, or could you redo this one?
I wouldn't have an average number of 350 because I would not be releasing the amount of people I'm releasing, so we'd still say stay right around the same number we're at. You're not taking into account the number of people released every day, or an early release.
What is that number overall?
We release probably 15 to 20 a day, early release.
On a percentage, let's say somebody's sentenced to 90 days in jail, they're going to get 5 days a month good time, so we're down to 75 days. If you release them after they've been there 72 days, yeah, technically it's early release, but
we're not releasing them after 30 or 45 days.
So you're basically, somebody is doing 75 days after they're sentenced to 90, they're doing about half of that? Is that what you're talking about?
About half, maybe a little more than half.
Okay. Well, isn't it true then that the judges are well aware of this and they would go ahead and increase their sentence knowing that
I'm not going to speak for the judges, and really this is a comment session, so you and I aren't going to get into it. You got about 10 seconds left.
Okay, all right, well, just one other thing. How many deputies do you plan on laying off after this is?
I don't have a plan yet, because I got to, like I said earlier, I got to filter all this information and crunch the numbers. So.
Did I hear Mr.
Time's up.
Did I hear Mr. Kaplan right earlier that he said they're going to start on construction of this year?
I'm not sure what you heard. Thanks for your comments.
All right, thank you.
Kwame James.
I believe Mr. Plummer mentioned a quick thought in passing as he was talking about his visit to the Nelson neighborhood, the Craig School site. He said, we're all in this together, we're all in the same boat or something to that effect. And that is at once a great strength and a great weakness for a decision-making process. I am personally not excited or pleased by the idea of putting people in jail at all. I understand that it's something that we're going to do as a society, though, and so I make the accommodation to all of you by acknowledging the importance of that strategy in the way that our system is structured. I hear a lot of people come here and tell what their position is and what they think ought to be done and what this plan is going to do to affect them